about the nature of decision making. We started this week on Tuesday discussing more specifically about how you can analyze a scene from different points of view. And when I say a scene, I'm talking about something in literature, or maybe you're in a play, but more specifically on the stage of the world. And we looked at how, by taking different perspectives, if we're looking at the scene by who were the actors in the scene, what were their motivations, what were the actions that they did to accomplish something, and so on and so forth, that gave us different points of view that allowed us to better understand what was happening so that we could make better decisions. Today, we're going to continue on this vein, but I'm going to take a step back. I want to talk a little bit about how our decision-making processes are impacted by our value system. So we're going to get to that today. But I also want to make a couple announcements. I am so tired today. You may see it in my face. So somebody in my husband's office came down with COVID. And before we knew that, my husband was feeling sick yesterday. And then we found out, and then I said, okay, let's go get a test. So we went and we got a test in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is actually a hot spot. So we've been tested 3 times as a result of being possibly exposed to the virus. And we're waiting our results. But the good news is that my husband's feeling much better at it after a good night's sleep. And I am totally grateful for that. I don't feel sick, but I am exhausted from yesterday and from all the activity that happened yesterday. As many of you know, I have fibromyalgia and probably chronic fatigue syndrome. So these things tend to impact me when we have a really crazy, busy, heightened emotional worry kind of day. So forgive me if I tumble over a few of my words, but I do have good news. Today I graduate from the Chopra program on Ayurveda. It was almost a year long, this program. It was very, very intense, and we have our graduation ceremony today. So I'll officially become a Chopra teacher, and I'm also going through their meditation program. So I'll start to incorporate some of that stuff into our podcasts as we move forward. So I have a postulation for you. I'm going to postulate. My postulation is this. Our decision-making processes are normally based upon our value systems. And our value systems is based upon our perception of reality. Let me say that one more time because I think it's a little bit of a mouthful. Our value system, our decision-making processes are normally based on our value systems, and our value systems are based on our perception of reality. Because this is true, our value system is normally so ingrained, so part of who we are, that unless we go through an experience that really challenges our base belief, our base ingrained value system, we never notice them. So we tend to automatically make decisions based on our values. And because our values is so much of who we are as human beings, we usually don't need to stop, re-examine those value systems, and then make a decision. Rather, it's more of an automatic process. We have already laid the groundwork, so our values are already part of us, and we're able then to more easily make decisions throughout life. Again, the exception to the rule is when life throws us a curveball, and then we're forced to sit there and have to re-examine everything that we believe and we thought and that we've built our world of perception upon. So ultimately, the guiding light, or our values, guide our decisions, and they're mostly a hidden process. And so we don't need to make a lot of discussions or thoughts or anything else. We could just go ahead and decide. But, you know, this year, especially this year, I mean, there's many years where we all have problems, but this year has been a hard year for many of us. We're confronting a lot of these deep-seated value belief systems that are really shaking our foundations. Now, granted, it's not shaking everybody's foundations, but a lot of people's foundations. For example, COVID-19, its existence, its reality, what I had to go through yesterday, cannot be separated at this point from this idea of death. When you are confronted with the possibility of death and dying, those are one of the kind of situations where you sit and you go, what's going to happen to me? Did I live a good life? Have I made good decisions? Does everybody know I love them? And then the list goes on. But definitely it forces us to sit and to think about all the things that we hold true for our lives, those major perceptions that we say to ourselves, because again, truth is relative. If you talk to many, many people, you'll find that many people hold different sets of truths. So we confront those things. In COVID-19, whether you've been exposed to the virus yourself, whether you've had the virus, whether you're just following the news about the president or other people who has the virus, whether you're seeing different posts on social media about different people who have died as a result of the virus, or just people who have the virus but does not die, right? It still is so foremost in our culture right now that you can't help, most of us anyways, a lot of us, I think, most of the people I've talked to, they cannot help but think about what it means if they die. So those are one of the big events, right? It's one of the big events in life that makes us really re-examine our value systems and go, do I still hold these ideas as truths? The other thing that made me confront some of my own values, recently, last night, we had a conversation with a group of people. One of my husband's former co-workers decided that the turmoil in our social and political lives is so overwhelming that it's time that we get people from different value systems to sit together in a single meeting and start talking about different issues that face our country. And it was a great conversation. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was interesting that there was only 2 women there, and there was tons of men. So I found that fascinating, but no reason to get into it today. But, you know, who's included in the conversation is always an interesting kind of dichotomy. I will say it was multicultural. So we had people from many different cultures. We had some people from Greece. We had some people who I suspect have Middle Eastern backgrounds, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm projecting there. I'm guessing there. We had white people. We had black people. We had 2 women. And so at least it was a variety of points of view, which I thought was really, really very terrific. But the conversation made us all recheck our value system. We were looking at the founding fathers' documents for this country and the fact that within the Bill of Rights, there is really no list of what you have to do to be a good citizen. Like, that's not part of the conversation. And we started discussion about whether or not a list of citizen responsibilities should have been included in the original documents that set up this country. And that alone made us all confront many different points of views and values. We had to take those values that are ingrained in our body and pop them out and put them on the table and go, wow, that doesn't fit with yours, and this is why I think you may be wrong, and so on and so forth. But it was a great conversation, multiple points of view, and I walked away from it feeling a lot more enlightened about other people and their values. I had a similar experience once back in Rollins College, where I got my master's degree in liberal studies. And what we did is we looked at literature from the early Greeks all the way up through modernity. And we looked at philosophy, nonfiction, fiction, the whole kind of gamut. And we looked at how values changed over time. And I remember I had this assignment in Rollins College that was quite amazing. I was asked to sit down and write my worldview. I'm laughing because it seems on one level extremely absurd. Oh my God, what do you mean, my worldview? And what they were talking about was the value systems that guide me throughout life. And it was a great assignment because it forced me to really start to think about what my values are, where they came from, why they exist for myself, and whether or not they were still serving me. And that's extremely valuable. Whether or not your values that you've held for a long time, probably even since your childhood, do they still serve you in the reality you are living right now? Now, this brings me to the next part of our talk, because there is a lot of people who would say that there's certain values that should never change. And that if they change, they lead to chaos in general. And we call these the true believers. And when I say true believers, yes, I'm talking about religion, but I'm also talking about people who have a set of values they were born with that they never divorce themselves from, because they believe that if the world presents difficult situations which challenge your values, that your values should just become that much stronger, and you should not waver, you should not bend, you should not allow them to evolve as a result of those experiences. And then there's another camp, and I hate to create a dualistic kind of view here, but I think it's important because we do tend to think in a dualistic way, whether it is helpful to us or not. That seems to be part of the human lot. So the other group says, I have a set of values and they serve me. And this is very much what's called a pragmatist point of view. So these values serve me, and I may even view them as truths right now at this moment in time. But then a situation comes up and you go, oh, I'm not sure this value still works. Now, that doesn't mean we toss the value away and we go, oh, this is crap, this is gone, get rid of it. Don't need it. It's not that, but it's that it evolves, that it's like clay. You have a piece of clay and you add another color to it and you mix it all together. And then that value transmutes to some degree into something else. And this idea of transmutation is a very popular idea in religion and philosophy and even in everyday life, because things do transmute. We do allow for some kind of growth. Now, I fall into this category, this pragmatistic category, rather than a true believer category. And the reason I fall in this category is my life experiences has challenged my value system so drastically at different point in time that what I had before could not serve me in that situation. And I didn't get rid of those initial values, but I did allow them to grow. Like, you put a seed in the ground, and if you just stuck with the seed and you never planted that seed ever, you just said, this is my seed, this is my value, I'm going to keep it, then you would never eat. You got to plant that seed, in my view, and allow things to grow. So what does all this have to do with decision making anyways? Good question. Thank you for asking. I love it when I put words into my audience's mouth. Our values, as I said earlier, they control how we decide to make certain actions in our life. And through this process, we are either blinded by the functionality of our value system, i.e., we trust it, it's there, it's ingrained in our body, and we're not going to question it, and we're just going to allow it to navigate for us. Or we need to be more conscious about those values and how they function in everyday life. And the issue comes down to this understanding of truth, I think. For myself, truth is slippery. I think there's a lot of people who feel that truth is not slippery, that truth is something solid, a solid foundation that we stand upon. But in my life, and all I have to go on are the perceptions of my experience. And in my life, I've noted that truths change. Things that I thought was true, or I thought were true at some point in time, were challenged. And those challenges transmuted my understanding of reality and therefore my ability to make certain decisions. So as we talk about decision making going forward today, this week in general, one of the things I want you to consider is the conscious decision making process versus an unconscious, almost automatic decision making process. And we're going to look at these two kind of cores of decision making. Okay. And so tomorrow we're going to start with the unconscious. So what are the different types of moral decision-making processes? And I'm using the word moral interchangeably with the word principled, because some people see decision makings as being a very moral kind of process. It's embedded in their value system. They are a religious person. They see these as moral decision bases. For those of us who are more pragmatic in nature, and pragmatism is a philosophy, not simply a functionality. But for those of us who have more pragmatic ideas about how we make decisions, we do not rely upon the automatic, or we try not to rely upon the automatic processes of just allowing our values to guide our decisions. Neither camp is bad. Neither camp is wrong. Humans are just diverse, and we are all in different places in our development, and it doesn't really matter if you agree with the other kind of decision-making processes. What really matters is that you're engaging in the thought process of knowing what your worldview is. Because ultimately, that assignment at Rollins College, and they gave it to me when I started my program, and I wish they would have given it to me after my program to see if they changed, but I guarantee you they did change for me. And understanding how our worldview changes with events and realities, that is vital. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at a couple different decision-making processes which are non-consequential. That means we are not considering the consequences of our actions. We are acting simply because we believe it is right. And we're going to start off with the great philosopher Kant and his understanding of morality and decision-making, which is very non-consequential. And with that said, I am now going to ask you to get comfortable in your seat. We're going to have a little bit longer of a meditation today. I've got my elf meditation here, Kevin MacLeod over at Impotech. Please visit him for your musical needs. You can download some music if you're not going to be making a profit off of it like myself, or you can buy the license so that you can use it for a variety of commercial purposes. It's really wonderful that he gives us these options, and he has such an amazing amount of music. All right, now that plug is over, take a seat. And I want you to take a deep breath right into your core. If you take your hands and you put them right on the bottom of your gut, breathe in deeply, and then exhale. I want you to roll your shoulders, your back maybe, your neck. Just get a couple kinks out while you're here. You might want to stretch before we all get into it. That's good. Got to do something about these arms, people. My God, aging's a bitch. Okay, enough. Breathe in for a count of 5. Hold your breath for a count of 1 or 2. And then exhale for a count of 6 or 7. The idea is that we're trying to calm our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest function of our body. And I just want you to go through maybe a cycle of 5 breaths, breathing in for a count of 5, holding for 2, and then exhaling for a count of 6 or 7. As I can't see you in this room, I'm going to count myself for this cycle of 5, and then we'll resume. Finish up your own cycle. And when you are done, I want you just to release control of your breath and take a few minutes to rather focus your breath in your heart center. Your heart center is actually not exactly where your heart is, but right between, in the center of your chest bone. And as you direct your breath here, I want you to imagine your heart opening up to grace in whichever way you define this idea of grace. And with each breath there, imagine that area growing larger and larger, encompassing your body with the light that you can see coming from your heart center. And then see it extend out to your entire environment. Just imagine that light coming from your heart center and engulfing yourself and all things in your environment. Now, as your attention is solidly on your heart center, I want you to consider your worldview. Focus on what leads your heart and your mind, how you make decisions, how you function day to day as a result of those deep-seated values, those values that you rarely uncover. You might look at them at the surface. You can be aware that they exist, but what does it mean to really examine your worldview and why that worldview has been constructed? Take a few more moments here. Get comfortable with your thoughts on the worldview. And if you're not comfortable, just notate that. You can confront it later. Now I want you to let go of controlling your breath, of your thoughts on the worldview, and just exist into being. Just be. In this moment, just sit with yourself as you are, without judging yourself or the circumstances or your environment or anything. And I want us to take a few minutes here to introduce a mantra. So hum. This mantra kind of connects us to the greater universe and consciousness. Our individuality as well as our collective nature, for we are never totally divorced from the collective, even though sometimes it feels like it. But we're all made of the same stuff. Trees, your desk, this mug. We're all made of the same stuff. We're just different arrangements of that stuff, different amounts. But when you relate to the cup in your hand, this cup is made of the same reality that you were made of, the same building blocks. So as you say so hum, and you focus your attention on this mantra, allow yourself to feel connected to the whole. As you inhale, say to yourself, so, and as you exhale, silently say to yourself, hum. It's more like hearing the mantra in your head than it is saying it. I will watch the time, and I will tell you when it is time to release the mantra. Now it's time to release the mantra and all thoughts and visions that went along with it. And I'm going to introduce a few intentions that I hope will help you throughout your day. Take a deep breath in and exhale. I have a joyful and energetic body. Just silently repeat the intention to yourself. I have a loving and compassionate heart. I have a reflective and alert mind. I am lightness of being. Today, I'm going to challenge you to sit down and to write out your world view. What are the deep-seated values that you function under? Why do they help make decisions for you or guide you in a decision-making process? I'm going to encourage you not only to write out this worldview, but also to share it with the rest of us on Facebook at Alignment with Rebecca. Go ahead and just post underneath this video. And if I get any posts, which I hope I do, I'll read some of them out tomorrow. And we'll see how those worldviews kind of function in the realm of moral and principle decision making over the next 2 days. I look forward to hearing from you. I am grateful for your presence today. And as always, I wish you aloha and grateful to you, mahalo. Namaste.